harm.
In the Ten Commandments, Commandments 6, 7, 8, and 9 are the ones that prohibit acts of evil: murder, adultery, stealing, and perjury. And then there is one commandment that prohibits the thing that leads to murder, adultery, stealing, and perjury. Which one is it? It's the last of the 10. Do not covet anything that belongs to others, not their spouse, their house, their servants, their animals, or any of their property. In order to understand this commandment and its unique significance, the first thing to understand is that this is the only one of the 10 commandments that legislates thought. All the other commandments legislate behavior. In fact, of the 613 laws in the 5 books of Moses, virtually none prohibit thought. Why then does the 10 Commandments include a law that prohibits a thought? Because it is coveting that so often leads to evil. Or, to put it another way, coveting is what leads to violating the preceding 4 commandments, the ones against murder, adultery, stealing, and perjury. Think about it. Why do people do those things? In most instances, it's because they covet something that belongs to another person. Obviously, that is the reason people steal. Thieves covet their victim's property. But it is also the reason for many murders, and coveting is obviously the reason for adultery, wanting the spouse of another person. As for perjury, or bearing false witness in the language of the 10 Commandments, that is done in order to cover up all these other crimes that are caused by coveting. But in order to understand why coveting is the one thought that is prohibited in the 10 Commandments, and one of the only thoughts prohibited in the entire Hebrew Bible, we need to understand what coveting means, and equally important, what it doesn't mean. To covet is much more than to want. The Hebrew verb, lachmod, means to want to the point of seeking to take away and own something that belongs to another person. Note that there are 2 operative elements here: seeking to own and belongs to another person. Seeking to own does not mean just envying, or in the case of your neighbor's spouse, just lusting after. Neither envy nor lust is prohibited in the 10 Commandments. Uncontrolled envy and lust can surely lead to bad things, and they can both be psychologically and emotionally destructive. But neither one is prohibited in the 10 Commandments. Why? Because neither is the same as coveting. It is coveting that almost inevitably leads to stealing, to adultery, and sometimes even to murder. Let me explain this in another way. The 10th commandment does not prohibit you from saying, "Wow, what a great house or car or spouse my neighbor has. I wish I had such a house or car or spouse." That may end up being destructive, but it may also end up being constructive. How? It may spur you to work harder and improve your life so that you can obtain a house or car or spouse like your neighbors. It is when you want and seek to gain possession of the specific house, car, or spouse that belongs to another that evil ensues, and that is what the 10th commandment prohibits. Therefore, one of these 10 commandments, these 10 basic rules of life, must be that we simply cannot allow ourselves to covet what belongs to our neighbor. Whatever belongs to another person must be regarded as sacrosanct. We cannot seek to own anything that belongs to another, because only evil can come of it. A good case can be made that the 8th commandment, "Do not steal," is the one commandment that encompasses all the others. How does "do not steal" encompass the other commandments? Well, murder is the stealing of another person's life. Adultery is the stealing of another person's spouse. Coveting is the desire to steal what belongs to another person. Giving false testimony is stealing justice, and so on. This commandment is unique in another way. It is the only commandment that is completely open-ended. All the other commandments are specific. The fifth commandment, for example, states that it is our parents whom we should honor. The sixth commandment, prohibiting murder, is about taking the life of an innocent human being. The seventh commandment, prohibiting adultery, is also specific to a married person. Two unmarried people cannot commit adultery. But the commandment against stealing doesn't even hint at what it is we're forbidden to steal, which means that we cannot take anything that belongs to another person. And that in turn means three big things. First and foremost, the commandment against stealing has always been understood to mean that we are not allowed to steal another human being, what we call kidnapping. That is why no one who had even an elementary understanding of the eighth commandment could ever use the Bible to justify the most common form of slavery, the kidnapping of human beings and selling them into slavery. Critics of the Bible argue that the Bible allowed slavery, but the type of slavery described was in almost all cases what was known as indentured servitude, the selling of oneself to another person for a fixed period of time in order to work off a debt. This had nothing to do with kidnapping free people, such as was done in Africa and elsewhere. That was expressly forbidden by the eighth commandment. The second significant meaning of the commandment against stealing is the sanctity of people's property. Just as we are forbidden to steal people, we are forbidden to steal what people own. It has been shown over and over that private property, beginning with land ownership, is indispensable to creating a free and decent society. Every totalitarian regime takes away private property rights. In the ancient and medieval world, a few rich people owned all the land, and the majority of the population worked on that land for the enrichment of the owners. And then in 19th century Europe, many socialists argued for taking away private property and giving it to the quote-unquote people. Where that advice was followed, in what came to be known as the communist world, theft of property quickly resulted in theft of freedom and ultimately massive theft of life. The third enormously important meaning of the commandment against stealing concerns the many non-material things each person owns: their reputation, their dignity, their trust, and their intellectual property. Let's quickly run through these. 1. A person's reputation. Stealing a person's good name, whether through libel, slander, or gossip, is a particularly destructive form of theft because, unlike money or property, once a person's good name has been stolen, it can almost never be fully restored. 2. A person's dignity. The act of stealing a person's dignity is known as humiliation, and humiliating a person, especially in public, can do permanent damage to what is perhaps the most precious thing any of us owns: our dignity. 3. A person's trust. Stealing a person's trust is known as deceiving someone. In fact, in Hebrew, a term for tricking someone is gnevat da'at, which literally means stealing knowledge. One example is tricking people into buying something, as when a real estate agent omits telling a prospective purchaser all the flaws in a home in order to make a sale. Another example would be when someone deceives another person with insincere proclamations of love in order to obtain material or sexual favors. 4. A person's intellectual property. This form of theft includes anything from copying software or downloading music and movies without paying for them to stealing a person's words, what we know as plagiarism. Stealing a life, a person, a spouse, material property, intellectual property, a reputation, dignity, or trust. There is hardly any aspect of human life that is not harmed, sometimes irreparably so, by stealing. That is why it is fair to say that if everyone observed only one of the 10 commandments, observing the commandment, "Do not steal," would, all by itself, make a beautiful world. I'm Dennis Prager.
Is done. Any wrongful action, let us be man enough to face our. There are a lot of things that people have to learn, so that this will be a very good lesson to everybody. Any wrongful action, you will be accountable to that. And let us be specific to protect everything, even the four square church, because what these two have done, or anybody that is in connivance with these people, also destroyed the reputation of the four square, because the eviction, okay, that will be a permanent record of me. However, that is also permanent record of the four square, the 1666, that is the mark of the beast. Worst. But we can still redeem. And I'm the only one that can do that. Because I can explain it to everybody. I'm not here to destroy. Because I have to honor also the four square church, what they have done also in Christianity. And I have seen also, even the president of the four square, once they are, because we are not perfect, sometimes we fall down. That is the reason I have here also my ministry, the Another Chance Ministry. Because I have also researched also those cases that four square. You see, the president make a bad investment. Okay. And then this person, the assistant supervisor, now even told me, they are non-profit business. A business is a business. Come on, man. Once you become incorporated, even California is a corporation. Even the government is a corporation. Because a corporation, the reason we have this corporation because of one purpose also. These are people that join together to have a legal, because a corporation is an artificial person that have some privilege. But a human being, a man, is a real person that is created by God, that is also have dignity. Okay? Because that person is not something but someone that we are given the gift of knowledge, intelligence, to use it to be who we are. Our experience will tell us who we are. That cannot be undone. So from the time I was born and raised by my parents, and my parents, my mother is a well-respected also among the Maulino family. And my father also is like the leader among the Tadiaman. And now, I am also a person that is very, very logical. I can forgive, but never forget, because that is the best teacher in your life, so that you will not do the same thing again. So, let me tell you this. Let our lawyers, because I'm going now too, because I don't want to commit the same mistake again. I try everything to really talk to the president of the Four Square, but man, it's really hard. I tried everything. What happened? Anyway, we have now a new president, and they have their what they call reimagining. So let us all learn to this nightmare that we have experienced. And like Barry Press, who is a convert Jew, become a Christian. Man, that is my number one witness, in which they even use Barry Press, the old man, who is now also active, also in sharing the word of God. You know what? Don Jose, who is catatonic before, now he's active. Because, hey, anyway, people have their own life. If you said you are cold, then do it. Not do it like a job. Okay? And I'm going to read the Corporate Code of Conduct of the Board Square so that we will know. Man, when we started our Bible school, man, it's so perfect. I said, yeah. So now we will be part of the Board Square because their Corporate Code of Conduct, man, it's like the Bible. Okay, let's read it. Oh, I'm going to read here part of my in my personal journal for court purposes. Research and done by Efren Tadiaman, March 2017. Number 1. A corporation is a creature of the state. It is presumed to be incorporated for the benefit of the public. It receives certain special privileges and franchises and hold them subject to the laws of the state, and the limitation of its charter and its powers are limited by law. It can make no contract not authorized by its charter. Its right to act as a corporation are only reserved to it so long as it obeys the law of its creation, which is the state of California. There is a reserved right in the legislature to investigate its contract in a certain if it has exceeded its power. Okay, Hell versus Hinkle, 201, U.S., page 43. Number 2. A corporation is an artificial person or legal entity created by or under the authority of the laws of a state. An association of persons created by statute as a legal entity. The corporation is distinct from the individuals who comprise it, like the shareholder and etc. Such all entity subsists as a body politic under a special denomination which is regarded in law as having a personality and existence distinct from that of its several members. That is the reason we have the Corporate Code of Conduct. That is the personality. Okay? That is in the Black's Law Dictionary. Corporations have no soul. Man has been created by, in, and for the Word of God, and this makes him the being who is responsible. Masses, collectives, and species have no responsibility. They are not capable of assuming responsibility. The corporation, cannot commit trespass, nor be outlawed, nor excommunicated, for they have no soul. Human beings are called natural persons to distinguish them from artificial person as or corporation. To acquire the status of artificial or legal personality, the group seeking it must be incorporated, must obtain a formal state license in modern civil law, while incorporation is necessary for some purposes, chiefly in commercial law, and group of persons active as a unit may be treated as an artificial or legal person. Warren Company versus Hester, 219 LA, blah, blah, blah. Radian Law Dictionary, 1956, page 249. Man, created by God in the image of God, was granted by God certain inalienable rights which are constitutionally protected. Corporation created by the state are not real or natural persons, and therefore have no constitutional secured rights. In other words, a corporation has no rights, only privileges, which may be revoked anytime its creator, which is the state of California, sees fit, individual members or shareholders or corporate franchises also surrender their rights because of their legal union with the corporation. The human person represents the ultimate end of society. In no case, therefore, is the human person to be manipulated. For this reason, neither his life, nor the development of his thought, nor his good, nor those who are a part of his personal and social activities can be subjected to unjust restriction in the exercise of his rights and freedom. The human person may never be thought of only an absolute human being built up by himself and on himself, as of his characteristics, traits depend to no one else but himself. Man exists as a unique and unrepeatable human being, and nobody above anybody in the eye of God. Churches are institutions that are so vocal in the protection of human dignity. The whole of the church doctrine, in fact, develops from the principle that affirms the inviolable dignity of a human person. The church has striven above all to defend human dignity in the face of every attempt to redimension or distort its image. The church denounced the many violations. Okay, these are some of the documents that I have given to Jeff Nelson. I don't know where he put it, okay. And my witness is